Testing, testing. Can everybody hear me? Hello, hi, good night. Anybody there?
Good evening. Hello.
Hi, Monique. You're there.
Hi. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wonder if there's anybody else in the room with us. Indira can hear us, but I guess, Indira, are you having audio issues?
I am here. I can hear you guys.
Okay, Brian, excellent, excellent. Shaniqua, I can hear you. Good night, Indira. Good night, Shaniqua. If you're writing, that means you have an audio issue somewhere.
No, no audio issues. I can hear you. Good night.
Lovely, lovely, Shaniqua. You're just using all of your options.
Yes, I am.
Lovely, wonderful. Sounds exactly like an auditor using all the options to find out what the hell is going on somewhere. All right. So let's see if we don't choose. Looks like we have almost everyone. So why don't we start off the evening with introductions? That's usually a good place to start. But before I say anything else, let me just say this about my auditing class. Auditing is not necessarily the most exciting topic in the world, although it's one of the most important functions in the world. So if you find yourself not getting all thrilled each class night and goosebumps and all that stuff from the excitement of auditing, do not worry about it. The objective is to get some information that you can use going forward. That is the key. Okay? We'll use happy, not happy hour for our thrills and auditing, boring auditing for our functions. Okay. So let me start off by saying, introducing myself. Let me do that first. Share screen. Just trying to get some information up. Can you guys see that?
Yes, I can see
Yes.
it.
Okay, lovely.
Yes, I can see it.
Well, first of all, my name is Samuel Wilkinson, and I shall be your lecturer in auditing principles for the next 12 weeks, beginning tonight. 12 weeks sounds like a long way away, but I can assure you it is not. It is just around the corner. Okay, so I'll start off up front while I'm introducing myself with some stinky information. Please don't get too far behind in your reading and review. That usually creates a nightmare for any student who gets caught in that dilemma. I guess I have an idea about that because a long time ago, I used to be a student too. And so I understand completely. Try to keep up. I know you have work and other responsibilities, but find some time to get up in the middle of the night from a bad dream and can't go back to sleep instead of watching TV or doing something else, read or something like that for the next 12 weeks, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Please write down my cell number, 5659551, and my email address as it is there. Please feel free to send me a text or an email whenever you want. If you have any issues you want to raise with regards to our sessions, assignments, or anything else for that matter, I'm always checking that stuff, and I'm always checking that stuff, so feel free. Okay. So everybody get that information?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So let me just add that I have been a lecturer at BIFS for a long time. If I say how long, I would be giving up my age and stage in life, but it's been a long time. Let me just say over 20 years. I'll stop there. Over 20 years. I have lectured at BIPS. I have lectured at the old College of the Bahamas, University of the Bahamas. I have lectured with Nova Southeastern University. I have lectured with the old St. Ben, St. John's University. I don't know, some of you may not have been born yet during that time, but I've been doing this for quite some time. And auditing is really just one of the courses I teach. I also teach accounting and compliance classes and ethics classes and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So I've been doing this for a long time. But teaching is not my primary profession. Okay, I lecture part-time as an adjunct teacher professor. My real work is banking and finance and accounting and compliance and all that stuff. So it's been quite an interesting, I wouldn't say how many decades yet. All right. So I say all of that just to say maybe by the time we're done with this course, I might be able to add some fuel to your fire information. And of course, if you have any questions or issues on any other matters, I believe I've seen quite a few other things in my life other than auditing. And so feel free to raise them. I might just have an answer for you, or I might be able to tell you where to find the answer. So we make this session a learning session, audit or no audit. My classes are what I call dynamic. Dynamic not in the sense that it's all jumping on fire necessarily, but dynamic in the sense that it's open session. I'm not going to be the only one talking. I want students to get involved, raise questions, argue. There's no such thing as a foolish question in my class. None of them for that matter. And so please feel free to raise any questions you may wish to raise. Some of them may not be directly connected to auditing. That's okay, raise it anyway. Learning is learning. And sometimes you learn some interesting things out of context. So don't be bashful. And I encourage you not to be bashful by allocating some points for coming to your classes, which I shouldn't have to give points for, but I like to do that to encourage students, especially working students, to fight through the pain and suffering and come to class. Class is always an interesting place to be. You get stuff firsthand. Sure, you can look at the videos, not necessarily the same altogether. Set of dynamics. Sure, you can get feedback from your colleagues, but that's quite not the same. As far as possible, you would want to come and do this on your own. Okay? The old adage, you want something done, do it yourself. Okay, so that's me. Any questions somebody might want to raise at this point? Did I leave anything out as far as I am concerned? Any curiosity questions? Letitia? Okay. Wonderful. If you think of any, remember, you don't have to wait until the end of the class or next week. You can raise a question anytime, make a comment anytime. Okay. Now it's your turn, students. I am going to call your name. And then I want you to introduce yourself to me and your colleagues. And tell us anything you feel like, including, of course, why you're doing this audit class to begin with. Okay. Okay, let's start with Letitia Brown. Letitia? Letitia is there, but something is going on. We'll come back to Letitia. Brian Flowers, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Brian, let it rip. Introduce yourself to us.
All right. Well, obviously, my name is Brian Flowers. Um, I'm a graduate of the University. Well, I'm a graduate of the University of Bahamas, but at the time it was COB. In 2012, I have a bachelor's in accounts. Uh, I'm taking this course because it's been a while now since I've really done accounting, and my job now, I'm in an accounting field now. So I'm trying to reacclimate myself and get back in the things of dealing with accounts.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll say this. Um, you will be dealing with accounting concepts for sure, but more from an auditor's perspective than an actual day-to-day processing side of accounting, which is fine because you've done all that processing stuff with the accounting cycle, etc. when you did this thing back in the day. Okay. This class then will give you that auditing perspective, which is kind of like looking at the work of the accountant and looking at the work of operations wherever you work and raising questions about what's going on, whether there's fraud, whether it's intentional, accidental, who's responsible for functions, and what to report to the board of directors, managers, etc., on whether or not all is well. So you are definitely in the right place, Brian. Welcome aboard. Getting that refresher just in time. Okay, Javon Forbes. Javon, are you there? Javon Forbes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, okay. Good night, everybody.
Hi, Javon.
My name is Javon Forbes. I'm taking this class because I recently got an opportunity with the company that I work with to work a bit with the auditing team there. My actual field work is with information technology. But I took this opportunity to use it as a way to, just thought it was expand my repertoire a bit. Because working with the team, I found, there's a lot of interest in it as well. So they just recommended that I go ahead and just take the course. So that's why I am here tonight.
Excellent. Excellent.
Mhm.
Auditing concepts
Mhm.
not only be of benefit to you, I can assure you, whether it's IT, the internal audit squad, management, supervision, whatever the case might be, the eyes of the auditor and the knowledge of what is required and what goes on in the world of audit definitely will add to your repertoire and make you perhaps even a little more curious about what's going on than you already are. Okay, so welcome aboard, Javon. You are definitely in the right place. Okay, Indira Ingram. Indira Ingram. Hello, Indira. Keep going. Don't stop now. Okay, Indira says she's listening. You can introduce yourself, Indira, through the chat. We're looking. In fact, we're quite interested in this curious way of introducing yourself. Say something. Who are you, Indira, and why are you doing this class? She's typing. Okay, so while Indira is typing to let us know who she is, perhaps we can kill two birds with one shot. Anya James, are you there? Hmm. Brian, do you know Anya?
Yes, I know Anya.
Okay. Then you can bring her up to date.
I don't think she's actually in the class.
Okay, so she's not in the session.
I don't think so. That's my boss, and she would have signed me up for the class.
Okay, great. So I can make a note of that. Excellent.
Alright.
Thank you very much for that update. Uh, who are we waiting for? Indira. The typing girl a minute ago. Okay. Shaniqua, are you there? Shaniqua. I see the name. I see it on mute. She's there. Are you there, Shaniqua? Neat. All right, let's go down to Monique then. Monique?
Sorry. Good evening, all. My
Hi,
name is
Monique.
Monique Thompson. I am currently employed at Bank of the Bahamas. And I was interested in this course mainly because I'm in the accounting department, but I didn't have the firm experience.
Yes.
And I wanted to actually see how schooling and life with two kids would work out before I attempt my master's.
Well, you're definitely going to get brushed up a little bit in terms of what life will be like. You have 12 weeks of blah, 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 and some interesting stuff coming up. So good luck. What ages are your little ones?
Thank you. 12 and 2.
Oh my God, you did that crazy stuff. Okay, 12 and then 2. All right, good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Uh, keep me posted on how that is going. It's a very brave venture, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. All right. I suppose those who are still muted will join us when they join us. Does anybody know how long this course runs for?
12 weeks.
12 weeks, I heard.
Yeah, it runs for 12 weeks, beginning tonight. So please make a note of that. Run from 6:30 to 9 o'clock. I normally don't give breaks. I just keep going on and on and on. But of course, if you need to break uh, for drink, answer the phone, to run out of the house in case of fire, stuff like that, that's fine. We won't argue with those things, but I just keep going and going. So if I stop a little bit before 9, that's probably because I'm thinking I've gone on long enough. You guys need a break. Since I don't give formal breaks, when you can take them, stretch and walk and do what you need to do. And so classes will come out somewhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, depending on what's going on. And occasionally, depending on what's going on, we might go a few minutes over 9 o'clock. But hopefully that will be the exception and not the rule. All right. You may have noticed from somewhere that we're going to be covering about 8 modules altogether, if I'm not mistaken. Something you have might have 7, but it's actually 8 modules altogether. And apart from the introduction, which we'll pick up first, some of the other interesting things in audit that you can expect to encounter, stuff like auditing principles, as they relate to errors and frauds. You'll find out finally what's the difference between errors and frauds and how they work. And also audit planning. What do auditors do in terms of planning to go out to conduct the reviews? By the way, does anybody in this class know what auditing actually is? Before we get bogged down in the discussion of anything, what is auditing, anyone? Make a guess if you don't know. What do you think it is? What does it sound like? I'll give you a hint. It comes from audio, Latin, which means to hear. So, based on your experiences so far, what do you think auditing is? Anyone remember? Don't be bashful. Don't worry about being wrong or right. Well, sort of. But don't worry about being wrong. Just let it rip. Anyone?
Examination of the accounts of an organization.
Yeah, definitely. The examination of the accounts of an organization. Couldn't put it better myself. And in examining these accounts, what do you think we are looking for as auditors? What are we looking for? Are we doing it because we don't have anything to do? What are we looking for when we examine these accounts?
You're looking for errors?
Yeah, you're looking for errors. Now, some errors are intentional and some errors are unintentional. When these errors are, if and when, auditors are not magicians nor are they miracle makers. They don't find every single error. In fact, depending on the size of the firm and the number of transactions, it is almost impossible to find every single error. But they sure as hell looking for errors, whether they're intentional errors or unintentional errors, for sure. Okay? And if they find those errors, what do you think they'll do?
But they will report those errors.
Yeah, they're going to report that information, whether the error is an error in accounting, an error in transaction, or something fraudulent as well. If anything untoward, meaning anything that is not an acceptable, generally accepted accounting and business practice, the auditor has a responsibility, as you will see later in this course, to report their findings to senior management, primarily to the board of directors. Anybody ever heard about board of directors? It's interesting you come to learn something about one thing, you start finding out about other things. That's the beauty of it. Anybody ever heard about a board of directors? Who are they? Who are they?
I guess they're the people who make the decisions for a company.
They do make decisions. In what capacity? Because remember, supervisors make decisions, managers make decisions, chief executive officers make decisions. So boards make decisions too, but in what capacity? Anybody know?
I think they make decisions on behalf of the shareholders.
Absolutely. Okay, for those of you who may not have known, as she said, the board of directors of a private company, not a public government company, a private company or private public company, they are elected by the shareholders. Now, who are the shareholders? Anyone? Who are shareholders? I told you, learning is a crazy thing. You come to do auditing and all of a sudden you're finding out some interesting things. Not only interesting, but they are critical to the world of business and to the work that you do. If not now, later. So anyone, who are shareholders?
Shareholders of an organization or persons who have an invested interest in the company, who have invested in the company.
Absolutely. The shareholders are those persons who have invested their money into the company. They're the ones who put the money up front so that the company can be started in the first place. They're the ones who pump money into the company later if it needs additional capital or money for projects and simply to continue running. And so these shareholders are the investors, and they are essentially referred to as the owners of the company. Okay? So if you buy some shares in Cable Bahamas or BTC or one of the other local companies, then suddenly you become a part owner of that company. And so when they have elections to elect members of the board, you will be there, even if you only have 10 shares. You still own a part of the company, you have 10 shares you can use to vote with and help to elect the board of directors. So these shareholders, owners, investors, they go ahead and they select members for the board, and the board's job is to oversee the day-to-day running of the company from the very top of the heap. They are the ones who send instructions down to senior management, beginning with the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, and they send information up to shareholders to keep them abreast of what's going on in the company. Remember, shareholders are not involved in the company from day to day. They put their money into it, and they are interested in two things, and two things only. Anybody knows what they are? Ever heard anything, any discussion about what shareholders are really interested in? They're not interested in whether or not two supervisors or supervisor and subordinate are arguing or fighting. They're not really interested in that. There are other people in the firm who deal with that. They're not interested in planning for the long-term strategy, growth and development of the firm. That's the board's job. What do you think the shareholders are interested in? Typically two things. Anybody knows? Because one day you might be a
Is
shareholder.
one to make money?
Well, yeah, in what way? That's a good.
They want a return on their investment.
Yeah. They want a return on their investment. In other words, if they put their money into the bloody firm, they have a right to expect a return on their investment. True or false?
That's true.
True. If you, any of you in this class, finally save $5,000, God forbid. Because nowadays saving $5,000 is not easy. As soon as you save one, the car breaks down, it's gone. You save 2,000, something blows up, it's gone. You save 3,000, somebody gets sick, it's gone. It's hard to save $5,000 in today's world, depending on who we are. But let's say you finally saved it, one way or the other, and you put it into a fixed deposit or certificate of deposit in a financial institution. Do you have any expectations about that deposit that you invested there? Anyone? What do you expect to get back if you deposit your money in a financial institution?
Interest?
Of course. And you don't expect to get less than 1% interest, which some of the banks are paying now. Did you know that? Did anybody here know that some of the banks are paying less than 1% interest on deposits?
Yep.
That's good that you know, because that's very important. So, just as you expect interest as a return on your investment when you put it into the bank or credit union, shareholders expect a return on their investment when they put their hard-earned money, or maybe not always so hard-earned, into a company. And the two things that they expect in return are something we call dividends. Anybody heard about dividends?
Yes.
Dividends are hopefully annual or biannual, however companies decide to pay it. They will pay shareholders a proportion of the profits that are made in the company, hopefully every year. It doesn't happen every year, but that's the expectation. And as long as dividends are coming back, it's a form of interest for the investment into the company. Shareholders tend to be very happy. Yeah, dividends stop coming, shareholders start to get unhappy and look towards changing the members of the board to see if they can get a new board who can agree to pay them dividends on a regular basis. Okay? That's their objective. The other thing that shareholders or owners or investors are interested in is seeing the price of their shares go up. Okay? That's the second thing, appreciation in the share value. It's like buying real estate. You buy real estate, you're not expecting or looking for the price of property to go down. You're looking for the value of that property to go up over time. Similarly, shareholders are interested in their investment going up in the form of increased share prices. So shares are $10 a share this year, and it goes to $12 a share next year. Shareholders are happy, especially if it goes up and you pay a dividend. They will love your company to death and you until you stop giving them what they want as a board. And then they will change you if necessary. Because they don't have any love affair with the board. They only want the board to do one thing, to run the company in such a way that it is so successful that they can pay dividends and see increases in share values on a regular basis. That's all they want the board members to do. Some board members do that successfully. Others are a little stinky at doing it. All right, so there you go. All of that stuff, just to indicate that when you find errors and frauds, etc., and corruption, as an auditor, you're responsible for reporting it to the board of directors, who of course will report to the shareholders, and action will be taken against whoever the perpetrators are within the firm. A young lady was just arrested the other day for theft, stealing funds from her employer's account and transferring it to her own account to another bank. Her employer became wise to what was going on, called the cops, they tracked the money moving fraudulently from her bank account, from the boss's bank account to her bank account. Same amount, same day, same movement. And so it didn't take them long after doing what we call a forensic audit. And by the way, does anybody have access to Google in this class?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Then do me a huge favor. Look up that interesting called forensic audit. Tell us what you find. Forensic, FOREN, SIC, audit. Let me know when somebody finds something. By the way, does anybody in this class speak a foreign language? At all? No? Anybody found it? Forensic audit.
I found forensic audit is an examination of financial records to find any illegally financial activity.
What kind of activity?
Illegal financial activity.
Illegal. So Now, when you go forward, you suddenly have a brand new expression because you signed up for this bloody course. It's called a forensic audit. And it's the review of accounting and business information in order to discover what again?
Illegal financial activity.
Illegal financial activity. So I would like to think that everybody in this class knows in some form or fashion what an illegal financial activity is. And part of the auditor's job forensically is to dig into transactions specifically, not just to verify transactions, which is the normal auditor's work and in great part, but to specifically find illegal. In the Bahamas, we call it to see if anybody teeth in the Jimenez. Okay, that's what forensic auditing is all about. So if you hear that expression, don't presume that all is well. Those two words mean that something is wrong. And now you know why. Because if your boss says that the company is going to undergo a forensic audit as opposed to a independent audit of the normal kind, then you now know that some serious hanky panking is going on somewhere potentially. Okay? Knowledge is power. Simple expressions like that have now put you light years ahead. So if you hear somebody talking about illegal activity somewhere, even you now, you guys can now speak up. So you know what? I recommend we have a forensic audit done. What the hell? Who told you all about forensic? What the hell does that mean? Okay. So welcome to the world of information. All right. So that's the job of the auditor. Okay. To use auditing principles and to find out about errors and frauds. Audit planning, we're going to discuss. Auditors don't just go to a firm and start auditing, they plan it. They have a whole program set aside for how they're going to conduct the audit in your particular firms. They have certain technological attributes and tools that they use to assist them to get these audits done and to have audit technology audits done. One of the more modern audit versions that have been moving around these days is something called technology audits. Who's the technology person in the class again?
That would be me.
Javon?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Javon. So, as a technology person, you might even be able to guess, if you don't know for sure, what a technology audit is. And just in case you may not have heard it in those terms, and for the sake of everybody else, it's an audit of the technological functions and activities within a firm. For some reason, some firms believe that the technology department is off limits. Is that true, Siobhan? Are you guys off limits?
We definitely aren't.
No. As a matter of fact, if you think watching tellers is whom you should watch, the teller is really not your problem. The tellers are easy to deal with. If you are not checking your your technology department, if you're not having your technology department audited, checked, and reviewed, one of these days, Siobhan will tell you, dog will probably potentially eat your
Lunch.
absolutely. Okay. A lot of things go down in technological side of things. So much information is being processed on a daily basis. So much confidential information is moving around. You cannot have any Tom, Dick, and Harry working in your technology department because if something goes wrong or you upset them and they decide to upset the apple cart and make your company suffer, dog eat your lunch. And so the audit, the forensic audit, and all these kinds of audits they do not escape technology either. Even though in many firms, it seems to be something that goes over their heads for some strange reason. Okay? Now, auditing the technology department is different from audit technology that is used in order to help auditors conduct audits. They're not the same, right? Keep that in mind. We're also going to talk a little bit about internal controls from an auditing perspective. Auditors come into the firm, and one of the first things they want to find out is about the company's internal controls. How are you controlling activities? When money comes in night deposits, who counts the cash? One person or two? When tellers are balancing, who counts the cash? The teller alone, or the teller and a teller supervisor, or a teller and the other teller? So depending on which system is being used in an organization, auditors will determine whether controls are strong or whether controls are weak. If only one person signs on checks, that is a control weakness. If only one person authorizes transactions, that is a control weakness. And because they occur inside the firm, we refer to them as internal controls. They're either strong or they are weak. Suffice it to say, class, that weak internal control leads to fraud, errors, and humongous losses, both advertently and inadvertently. If controls are weak and nobody's checking, people start running off with stuff, stealing goods, stealing money, stealing anything that doesn't fall within the control of the firm. It's quite as simple as that. Food stores will tell you, as much as they try to control things, they lose millions of dollars every year from theft, because employees and customers find ingenious ways to bypass controls or simply ignore them, steal stuff. So this business of internal control, quite a challenge for firms. Trying to put systems in place to see if we can minimize losses, theft, and destruction of property, etc. Okay. All right, so we'll be looking a little bit at internal controls. Then we will also be looking at something called vouching in auditing. Vouching is kind of going in to check the paperwork to see if what management says is actually true, to see if what is happening is actually something that should be happening or not. So it's the checking system of the audit process. Okay. The other thing of interest that we'll be looking at is what we call the evaluation and verification of assets and liabilities. Wow. A lot of fraudulent stuff goes on with regards to the handling of company assets and even the handling of company liabilities. And you'll see how that happens soon. But before I go any further, I have another question. Does anybody know what assets are? Assets of the firm, what are they? Anybody even ever heard that word before? Or tonight is the first time in life you heard the word assets?
Valuable property of the firm. So
Okay, yeah. Property is definitely
yeah. So like
some assets.
mhm.
Can anybody think of any other assets that might exist in a company? or personally? Do you guys have any assets?
I guess asset, anything that a company owns, as well as money.
Absolutely, Byron.
Mhm.
Yes, Brian. Anything that a company
Company
owns
owns.
is called an asset. So whether it's cash or accounts receivable or inventory or prepayments or land and buildings and equipment and whatever, whatever the company owns, whether they're tangible or intangible, they are referred to as the assets of the company. Another word auditors might run into, or we might run into in our normal business. Two words, tangible and intangible. Anybody knows what they are? As you can see, auditing,
Tangible is something physical that you can touch or see, and intangible is something that's, example, like software.
absolutely. Okay, tangible is something you can touch. Intangible is something you cannot touch. Now, some people might argue, well, I can touch software, but the truth is you can touch the box it's in, but you cannot touch the software that's moving through the computer. So it's definitely intangible. Can somebody think of another intangible asset that you cannot touch, but you own it? Probably not so simple because we don't talk about intangible assets too often, not even in practice unless something comes up. But good. Sorry, what is it?
Another intangible asset can be like intellectual rights.
Maybe I
Yeah,
stock.
intellectual property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, intellectual property would be what, for example? It's definitely intangible. What would be an example of intellectual property?
Of concern.
It could be you're thinking of things that have been like written, songs, other things like that that is done by the author or those sort of stuff.
Absolutely, Letitia. Any kind of works that you create is considered intellectual property because it's your creation, whether it's artwork, music, or any such work that comes from your heart, your hands, and your mind. Okay, those would be considered intellectual property. You cannot touch them, but you own them. Okay. If you work for a firm and you are working in the research and development section and you're using their money to do the work and you discover something, they consider your intellectual property to be theirs because you use their facilities to come up with it. But the point is, it's that intangible asset that is actually given a value in accounting um, and actually sits oftentimes on the company's balance sheet. Okay. Very important little bits and pieces to know. We're all familiar with the tangible assets that I just mentioned. A lot of people, though, are not still not comfortable or familiar with the intangible assets, but they are there. Many of them carry significant dollar values and the millions of dollars, depending on what they are. Okay? So, for example, you may have heard about the Beatles. The Beatles' rights to his music is worth tens of millions of dollars. I hope they still have those rights. Sometimes they sell them to other people. But again, that's all intellectual property because it's music that they created. Okay. All right, good stuff. And so part of the auditor's work then is checking out the assets of the firm to see, first of all, if they exist. Because some companies have assets on the balance sheet that don't exist because they are fraudsters and liars and deceivers at the board level. And because they're trying to make the world and shareholders and others think that they're doing a certain thing, when in fact they are not. Anybody ever heard about FTX?
Yeah.
I hope so. If you haven't, go to any local newspaper, Google it, type in FTX, and you'll see the horror show. It's an ongoing horror show. But FTX is a classic case of stuff that was supposed to be done as a control. These things were not done. That was just plain careless, unadulterated waste and fraud and theft and God knows what else that went on with customers' money. Okay, so this thing about asset verification is very important. Sometimes companies might say on the balance sheet that they have properties in several places and assign values to them. And then as an auditor, you go in, you're suspicious, you do it as a normal boss. You say, great, you have 3 properties, one in New York, one in the Bahamas, one in Toronto. Fantastic. I'd like to see them. And suddenly you start getting flack because nobody wants to say that we lied. There are no such properties. Happens all the time. So the auditor coming in or the internal auditor working within cannot presume. They have to go and check. And anybody who tries to keep you from checking puts the audit in jeopardy. The auditor has a responsibility to report anybody who tries to stifle the audit in any form or fashion. Whatever they ask for, company management and staff are required to supply the information. It's quite as simple as that. If the auditors cannot get the information, then they will shut down. Say we cannot effectively conduct this audit because our efforts to get audit evidence and information is continuously frustrated by this bloody board. And they may even have to tell the board sometimes, you guys don't give us what we want. We'll report you to the shareholders. Sometimes that works. Because not all boards are working in the interest of the firm. Many board members are running their own show using company resources, etc. All right. So this thing about verifying assets is very, very important. Similarly, we will talk about how to verify company liabilities. Now, if an asset is something you own, then students, what is a liability?
Stuff that
Something
you
you
owe.
owe.
Yeah, something you owe. For sure. I suspect that at least one person in this room has a liability, at least one. If you don't, then that is a story that is too good to be true. Try to keep it that way. But it's not always easy to stay away from liabilities, depending on what we're trying to achieve. The important thing is to get into debt. Because liabilities represent what we owe. And we need to get into debt cautiously and responsibly. And when I say we, I mean individuals and companies alike. Subject to the same pain and suffering if we do not properly manage debt, which are the liabilities. So the auditors, you will see in our discussions later in the semester that they're checking assets for the existence of those assets, and they're checking assets to make sure they're properly valued, because boards lie all the time in order to make their balance sheet look better than they really are, or to fool shareholders into thinking that all is better than they actually might be, and so on. And that's the whole reason for having an independent auditor come in, so that they can conduct review without being hindered by anyone from the board all the way down to the cleaning person. It's quite as simple as that. Okay? But it's extremely important, as you'll see, for auditors to know the status of assets and liabilities of the firm, verify those balances on the balance sheet against documentation with financial institutions, with vendors, whomever they need to, in order that the audit can be properly conducted. Some auditors have become known to have been taking shortcuts in the last 10 years. Some companies have failed as a result. Some audit firms have been fined heavily as a result, and one or two have even gone out of business because of fraudulent auditing even. Imagine the auditors, what we do, few bad apples to do with ethics and professional conduct by auditors. Of course, you'll find a lot of this stuff can be extended into other professions, not only auditing. Ethics can be extended into any profession. Professional conduct can be extended to any profession, even if you are a cleaning person and a garbage collector, maybe. It is important to understand the importance of professional conduct. Oh, you collect garbage, why should you be professional? You should be professional because if you collect garbage and throw the garbage tin down, even though you met it upright, that is unprofessional conduct in garbage collection. And somebody needs to deal with it. If you only come to collect garbage once every 6 weeks, that is unprofessional. And somebody needs to deal with. So this business of audit ethics and professional conduct is pervasive, and part of the auditor's job when they come into your firm is to see through conversation and reviews and otherwise who can be considered to be ethical and exhibiting professional conduct. Sometimes that is easier said than done, but it is part of the external auditor's job, and to some extent, the internal auditor's job. Wow, big job. That's why they get the big bucks, even though sometimes it can be pretty boring work, just looking at other people's work to see whether or not they did it right. But it is a crucial function because it is an independent function. The external auditors are not subject to the company board. They cannot tell them what to do. They can maybe pay them off, which they've done a few times, but if the job is being done right, none of that stuff should be able to impede the work of the auditor, external auditor in particular. Okay. So, a whole lot of interesting stuff on the plate. And like I said, a lot of it from time to time is not going to be like overly exhilarating, but that's perfectly okay. Some of the best things in life are not exhilarating at all. Okay, for sure. Okay, any questions so far? Wonderful. I see folks have been making inquiries and kind of getting into it. That's what I want you to do. Okay, don't be bashful. All right, another important point, now that we've looked at what you will cover this semester, let's talk for a moment about examinations. You know, the stinky thing that we hate. Examinations. You guys will have 2 examinations this semester. A midterm and a final exam. The midterm is expected to occur around week 6, which is the middle of the semester, and your final examination is expected to occur in week 12, wherever that is into the not too distant future. So, your examinations will take a very simple structure. You will have to answer some short answer questions, like what is auditing, what is a forensic audit, who are shareholders, whatever the case might be. What is a fraud? What's the difference between a fraud and error? There won't be any surprises on the examination. If you read, if you review, if you take notes as you always do for examinations, you guys should be fine. What you don't want to do is what I said earlier. Don't get too far behind in reading. Otherwise, you might find it quite frustrating trying to catch up. It's not impossible, but it has a level of frustration attached to it.
Sorry, I have a
Great.
question. Will the
Yes.
exams be face to face?
I believe they might be, or it's possible that they might be virtual. Anybody in this class is in a family island anywhere? No? Miguel will confirm very soon within next week whether or not the examinations will be in-house or virtual. Okay. As soon as he does that, I will certainly share it with you guys as soon as next week. Okay. By the way, while I remember, please do me a favor, send me an email with your contacts so if I need to reach you for any important reason, I can find you with the minimum amount of stress. Okay? Please. You can do that anytime after this class is over so that I can help that information if I need it. Okay? Examinations will carry the following grade applications. First, midterm exam will be worth 40%. Your final exam will be worth 40% equal weights. Your attendance and participation in class will be worth 10%. And the other 10% will be allotted to you for a case study that I will ask you to do. Now, folks, when you get the case study, it's not designed for you to lose your mind and get all uptight about it. Just give it your best shot. I really just want to see how you're going to attack the problems involved in the case and how you are going to communicate that, which are the two primary functions of the auditor once he gets on board. Okay? Communication and processing. Communication and processing. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else of interest. I will send your case studies to you sometime this week. You don't necessarily have to start this weekend if you don't want to, but don't wait until the last minute. Okay, folks. Try not to wait until the last minute to begin work on your case study. You may want to wait a couple of weeks so that you can get some information, give you a chance to read and use some of the information potentially that we're discussing as part of your case study, or to assist you in coming up with ideas and suggestions and solutions. That's the whole idea. So while I'm not expecting perfection, I'm certainly expecting your best effort in terms of preparing you not only for your examination, but also for your case study. For sure. Okay. So I think I've covered all of the important housekeeping issues. Did I leave anything out, Hans? Okay, fantastic. Since you guys have been so amazing, tonight will probably be the only night that you get off at 7:43. I will let you off the hook tonight, but there's a caveat attached. You must promise that you will read the introduction or chapter 1, okay, in your notes, to start to get you ready for what lies ahead. Module 1, please. Any questions, students, at all? All right, wonderful. Then happy reading.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry, I had a
yeah.
question. Sorry. I know the book doesn't actually go by chapter, so you're talking about the first page where it says introduction and overview of auditing.
Are you looking at the notes that you got from Tips?
Yes.
Yes, it should be that page that
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The very beginning,
All right.
right at the top. Yeah, don't leave any lines out.
Okay.
All right.
No
So you
problem.
guys, happy reading. Please send me your email, send me a test email so I can have your email contacts if I need them.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions along the way before our next session next Monday, please feel free to raise them. Okay? Until
Okay.
then, question?
Yes, can you write your email in the chat again, please?
Okay, here we go. I'm going to share it again. Just going. There you go.
Thank you.
Problem. I am at your disposal for the next 12 weeks. Happy trails. It's not all going to be hunky dory, but that's okay. No pain, no gain. And so keep on trucking, and I shall see you guys next week, same time. Remember, they say COVID is not gone yet. So please take every precaution that you need to take so you can get safely back to your next session on Monday. All right? Yes?
Yes.
Fantastic. You guys take care, and I'll see you next week. Don't forget to send me the email.
Okay,
All
good
right.
evening.
Good
Good
evening.
night. Take care.